Welcome back, everyone. Been a cracker of a week this week. Got a heap of fuel lines done on the car using all kind of the Raceworks Hardlines. So if you haven't seen much of that, there'll be a bit in here about that, how we use the tube nuts, tube sleeves, flares, all that kind of jazz. I'll, like the last video in the description, I'll chuck a couple of links up to different tools that we've used that might be handy. Some part numbers if you want to have a bit of a go yourself. So yeah, roll in with it. I hope you're having fun. Hope you're enjoying the content. Cheers guys, bye. Alright, we're ready for another week of chaos and fun. We're start mucking around with the fuel system. Obviously got the wiring all buttoned up to a reasonable degree. The young fella out here with us. Fuel cell, surge tank. I'm just going to start now doing the main feed line from the tank to the lift pump. So that's going to be a -8 feed line. So we've just got our orb fitting with a tube nut and sleeve. So that'll run through here. Once we've got it mounted in the car, then I'll run from this to where the surge will be. But for now, we've just got some -8 line. We'll start straightening that out, put a flare on it, measure it, bend it, get that going. I figure that one's just gonna be easy to do outside of the car. So yeah, we'll get cracking on that. Alright, so we've straightened out that -8, cut it, flared it, all fits up pretty nice, does pretty much what I wanted. Comes out the back here nice and tight, runs along the side of the tank to the lift pump. The lift pump mounted to the tank too, so that'll be good. Next up will just be getting that surge tank mounted up about here, I reckon, and then we can run our feed line up to it. Well, that should be pretty good. The only thing I probably need to invest in, I've got one for, I can bend -6 nice and easily, but I don't actually have a bender for -8, so I'll probably have to have a look around and see what the other guys normally use. I think Raceworks do a couple of benders, but I don't know if it goes up to -8. I'll have to have a bit of a look, but tube straightener, that's a lifesaver. These work brilliant. They you just wind the handle down. What I normally do is I'll just wind the handle down until I feel it stop kind of shuddering. As you wind it through, it starts kind of shuddering, and that's as I think it's getting the high and low spots out. So the further you go, the straighter it gets, and yeah, you just feel it kind of start gliding through, and that's when it's pretty much done. So that's in. Yeah, start getting the surge, I reckon. We'll have a look at that. Hopefully we'll have some brake bits turning up next week, and then we can start doing some brake lines. But for now, I think we just focus on getting the fuel system done. That'll be kind of a nice little win, get that out, down and out of the way. We'll get going. Well, we've got the fuel tank kind of just sitting back in. We've got surge tank just with a couple of bolts holding it there. I'll have to make some proper mounts up to pick up the other 4 tabs, but that there should be pretty good just to start getting some lines made up. One thing that was funny is when we took the fuel tank out of Jimmy's car, the fuel smelled absolutely rancid, and it definitely didn't smell like E85. So anyway, we did the little fuel test, come up at about I don't know, I think it's, yeah, it smells woeful. We'll do a little test of mine. I've actually just drained some out of our surge tank, so I'll test that in a minute, see what that comes out at. It'll be interesting. So it looks like the fuel that Jimmy had probably was half decent E85. It was just filthy. That's the new stuff. That's basically what I just pulled out of my tank. So interesting, good to know. That's basically what we get from the truck. So that's saying E90 there, so happy days. Just changed a couple of little fittings over on the surge tank. Obviously we can get these in a dash 8. A lot tighter radius than what I can do with the dash 8 hardline. So we've got the dash 8 hardline, kind of that's a 90 degree there, and that was about as tight as I can get. What I like to do sometimes with some of these, like that last one, I could kind of measure and get a rough idea of how long it was going to be. I like to use just TIG rod, aluminium TIG rod. You can start bending it, shaping it, and if it doesn't, you can get a bit of an idea of where your bends are going to be, what the actual whole line's going to end up looking like. If you don't like it, you can straighten it out. It's easy. You're not wasting line. So yeah, I'll probably start using this TIG rod, start kind of mocking up what I'm going to do with this supply line. I'll probably just use that back 90 degrees as a bit of a template for kind of how large the radiuses are going to be. And then yeah, you know, the other nice part is I know that these TIG rods, they're about 1 metre long. So once I can finish doing the run, I can measure back. If there's 250 mil left over, I'd know that I need to cut a piece that's 750 mil long, and that should get me basically end to end. So I normally cut it 800 mil, cut off 50 mil of the end. That's is what it is. That's part of making this stuff. So we'll start by doing this now. And just like that, your plans change. So I wasn't too sure. I initially was running this and I was going to run it down, but just with the length we've got here and how the radius comes out, it just wasn't going to look neat. So I think this will here will look heaps better. I just did our dash 6 because I had a bit of wire with length on it that would fit. Our return, I've still got to mock that up, but that's basically just going to follow this dash 8 and we'll end up just clamping those together. So I reckon for now we'll probably start, make that supply dash 8 line, see how that goes. I'm not going to make everything all the way up to the firewall. I'm pretty much just going to make it up to about where the fuel filter is for now. We're not, without the motor in, I don't know the car well enough to know where everything is in the engine bay. So I figure if I leave it short and leave it just in the footwell, once the motor's back in the car, we've got a fuel rail in there, we know what we're shooting for, we know if we want the bulkhead fittings to be on the driver's side, if we want the bulkhead to be on the passenger side, where we want them to be. So keep plodding away. Alright, here's something that can be a bit of a catch for new players. This here, we're obviously going to start putting a bit of a bend in it to come into here. But our hard part's going to be, if we put this bend in it, we are going to really struggle to put a flare that close. So what you've kind of got to do is eyeball it up, work out roughly where you think the flare's going to be. No kind of critical math to it, just a bit of an educated guess. Cut it, put the flare on, and then you can bend it the rest of the way. And if you've got your flare in the wrong spot, you're going to be unbending it, straightening it out, or working something out. So these here, I like to try and, with the angles in it, you can kind of cheat a little bit in the fact that if you have a nice big radius, if you're a bit long, you can tighten that radius up and it will actually use a bit more material. Or you can go the other way. If you've got a nice tight bend, you can actually kind of open some of the bends up. So I was going to kind of mark it roughly where I think, flare it, see if I got it right or not. Well, I think that there fits quite nicely. So we've got coming out. So this is basically, yeah, our supply to the surge tank. All kind of fits up nicely. A little bit of an overbend there just to try and, I don't know if you guys can see that. A bit of an overbend here just to try and get it back to the tank, just so, yeah, happy. Might, I think our pump outlet will probably change it. I think I'll probably run that out just a bit further and run it on this side here. Saves me having to try and pass it through this. And if I do that, then I can run the return alongside it or tuck it back under it, but it'll just give me a lot more room. With the wire, it was fine to run through here because it's narrow, but once we've actually got the physical size of everything there, it definitely gets a bit tighter than I was first anticipating. So we'll give it a go. So I just went back through and had a look at some of the videos of me doing the flares and all that, and pretty terrible. So we'll see. They might make it, they might not. But either way, I'll show you with this here. So basically similar to brake lines, make sure you got your tube nut, your fittings and all that on. Then for what we're doing, what are we on? 3/8. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've got your operation 1. Make sure you've got your end flush. And when you do your operation 1, that's what they call like a bubble flare. And then we normally go to operation 2. And that then will give it a nice taper that with this is your 37 degrees. So with your brakes, all your brake lines, they're 45 degrees. So kind of a bit of a thing when we do go to the brakes, just making sure that we're doing the right flare for what we're using. So like these here, that little T-piece there, that'll be a 37 degree flare because it's sorry, that'll be a 45-degree flare because it is an actual brake fitting. So we'll use the 45 there, but then when we go to like our bulkhead fittings that we've got, or our adapters for the master cylinders, they are -3. So you add 37-degree flare there. I have been told that it doesn't matter, you can get away with using a 45 or a 37, whatever you've got, but we have both of them, so I figure we might as well just use the right one for what we're doing. So I'll try and position the camera a bit better so you can actually get a bit of an idea of how we're doing these flares. This whole unit is meant to be mounted in a vise. I don't have a vise here mounted anywhere nicely, so I just crank it down in the with a shifter, but might see if I can sort out a vise or something in here. I don't know how we'd hold it down, but see what we can do. Hopefully that last one won't do it better, but you can probably see that's the flare that we get on it. So then we have our tube sleeve, so that there just supports it, and then when we crank it down, it holds it all. But with this size here, I can actually use my actual bender. It does actually fit in properly, so we'll be able to get a nice little bend on these. Another day, another few hoses. Made some good progress yesterday, I feel. We've got the supply done to the surge out to fuel filter. We've got the overflow done. Kind of all that's left is this line here. So this will be our return from the rail. So my thought is that we'll just have it sit underneath it nicely. So we'll start bending that up. That'll come into here. Then the only line left will be just a vent line. I'm kind of undecided where to run that at the moment. I'll just run that to the back somewhere and poke it out the floor. Run it through to maybe one of these grommet holes and just poke it out through the floor and put a breather on it. That way then, when it starts sucking back into the tank, it's not going to suck road grime in, but it's behind everything and should be away from any potential kind of nasties, and at least the fuel won't be venting into the cabin and getting that nasty fuel smell. So we'll keep going with that. I might mount up or at least look at mounting up the oil tank, just so that we can start getting all of that stuff permanently mounted. Yeah, we might roll into another time lapse, just doing the return from rail. Well, that's super inconvenient. Run that, follows that nicely. This is just an offcut that I had, and it's just a fraction too short. What I'll probably do is I'm going to put a big bend on that, because I'm not sure if I actually wanted to come in to a 90 degree there. What I might do is this might actually work perfectly if I get another one of these 90 degree ORB fittings, and then I'll just run that 90 degree out, and then it'll kind of mirror that, and I think it might look a bit nicer anyway. So I think I'll leave that for now, call that done, and just order a different fitting, because yeah, there's probably no real point getting too kind of bent out of shape about that. Anyway, we might do this breather. I've just been having a bit of a look. We've got a fair bit of room, because we want to keep all this will all end up getting enclosed and sealed. I'm actually thinking that we might come up here, do kind of 2 loops, come down, go back, and actually just go through this back little bulkhead here. That's where the old fuel tank used to be. I can't really see any issues with that, and it means that we can keep it all within our sealed little chamber. So I think that'll work quite well. Anyway, might do that now, see if I can go find some old stuff just to muck around with. Back again. So yesterday I started doing this overflow line from the tank. As you would have seen me start kind of trying to bend it, getting the big curls in it. I just wasn't happy with it. That's why I didn't kind of film much more after that. Wasn't happy, didn't like it. It just looked a bit messy and shit. Anyway, kind of thinking about it last night. Came up with a bit of an idea to try and wrap it around something. I'd been trying to kind of manually form it and get that nice round. Didn't really have anything. Normally I would have kind of probably wrapped it around some exhaust tube to get something nice and kind of uniform. But in the end what I did, of all things, is use this little post. We wrapped it around here, and as we wrapped it, just kept it nice and tight. And actually managed to get a nice little coil. So it comes through here. This is just like a bulkhead fitting. So it pokes out through there. Underneath the car, we're just going to run a rubber line to the back of the car, and that there, with all these coils in it, we shouldn't have any fuel coming out of it. We shouldn't have any kind of issues. It should be good. All the rest of it has come up really good, really happy. Obviously the tank's not hard mounted in yet, nor is the surge tank. I don't have easy access to a little welder in here to be able to do it. So hopefully I'll go down to a mate's place and be able to start making all the mounts to mount that up fully. But all in all, I've spoken to Ampool. They have a orb fitting, so I'll be able to just button that up. That means then we'll have just our basically our return come to here, our feed come to here, and then I can do these lines down the track once the motor's back in and we're happy where everything's at. So I think we'll probably leave it there. It's been a good week. Next week will probably be brake lines. All that's turned up now, so come back next week, do some brake lines. Have a good one. Bye.